on, and the lights go out and racing gets underway. A great launch from Peter Bove, but better starts from the second row guys of Glover and Cowley. Ed Piver's made a better start in the first race. Somehow Hugh Davis is facing the wrong way opposite us in 21, so I'm not sure what happened a bit further back with watching the leaders. So Hugh Davis is reversing back onto the circuit and will get going. So we won't need a safety car. And Peter Bove leads coming down towards Wilson. But Ed Pivo's mighty quick into the corner. So I think he's going to be challenging as they come out of the hairpin. Looks like Mark Glover, the championship leader, has lost time. He's alongside Steve Boover. There's Davies, who had a bizarre accident at the beginning. Didn't see that. Presumably contact was involved.
Bill Cowley's right on the tail of Bove. Whereas, does that mean that Pither's ahead? It does. And Pither now with a lead of about 6 or 7 lengths into Agostini. And Bove, the birthday boy, also the shepherd diving up the inside. That's Richard Jenkins having a good run through Agostini. But it's Pither who's scarpering up front. Bove is second. Jake Doherty and Matthew Unwin there having a bit of a tussle.
How much is Ed Piver going to win by this time? He was a long way ahead by the end of the earlier race when he wasn't at the front at this stage.
Mark Glover dives up the inside of the surviving sort of works derby. That's Steve Boother. He's coming through.
There's a 31, which is David Reed. That's the car that Oliver Collett drove so well last season.
And that's got a modified body on it as well, sort of carbon fibre body.
Yeah, that's right. And Collett won races last year, I think, including here at Snetterton. David Reed new to racing this year, so here take a few races to get up to speed.
Jenkins is going well in the Shepherd, isn't he? He's and Glover dropping back. He's been gobbled up by a couple of cars coming up.
He was saying he lost a gear, didn't he, in the earlier races?
Yes.
So I wonder if it's happened immediately this time. And this is, like the previous race, drama for a championship leader. And Glover's season is kind of being based on consistent results throughout. And this may not be one which carries that form on, because Glover's been in the top 5 in every race, but he's not there at the moment. It's Ed Piver that leads by a long way from Peter Bove, Bill Cowley, then Jenkins. There's Marcus A. Richard Jenkins in the Shepherd going really well. Andrew Kemp is up next in 5th. Mick Harris is 6th and Mark Glover 7th. So he's dropping away. So this is a good chance for Peter Bove to take the championship lead. Cowley putting him under pressure. Bove, who's I think not feeling 100% this weekend. Probably, if anything, it's going to be a toll on him rather than the car, doing 3 races over the course of the weekend, I think. But he's battling on and scoring important points for the championship. There's Cowley in P3 in the car originally designed back, 50, 60 years ago now.
Yeah, back in the 1960s.
You forget that it's 1960s was 60 years ago, don't you? Which is there's Jenkins in that in the Shepherd. He's from Norwich, so a short journey to the track this morning for Richard Jenkins in this car that was designed and built by Max Shepherd. He's just behind Bill Cowley, so I'm sure Richard Jenkins will be delighted to be able to go with these guys. He's gone pretty well in the wet in that car, but I don't think we've seen him right up with the front runners in dry conditions, but he looks like he's got a good chance of that this time, the ex-low-cost driver.
Trying to assert his sort of home rule, isn't he? He's obviously very familiar with Snetterton, and the car looks really good. From a distance, it has that sort of Chevron B19 stroke look to it, a little bit from the side, like a Pilbeam MP43 car made in Lincolnshire.
So there's Cowley, like earlier, quick through the corners particularly, hasn't quite got the straight line speed.
He's hustling along, isn't he, Bill Cowley?
He's making his intentions known in the mirrors of Peter Bove.
These days you have to have a weight of the car and the driver. Peter Bove was saying he carries about 25 kilos of ballast. And round the outside, and diving into Murray's, getting the place, is Bill Cowley. Peter Bove gets out a little bit quicker, tries to draw up alongside.
It's very rare a move at Murray's worked all the way down the centre straight, and that might be a similar situation. Both back through it. Cowley immediately gets back into the slipstream, then darts back out of the toe to challenge into Richie's on the inside line. He's later on the brakes and he's back ahead. So that was really good driving by Bill Cowley. I think he realised he didn't have the exit speed, but knew as soon as Bove was clear, he would duck back in the toe just to give him that extra mile per hour or two. to challenge into Ritchie's, and he's back ahead of Peter Bove.
And it's really encouraging for Richard Jenkins to be able to watch these two guys who have won many, many races between them. Andrew Kemp into the pits in the 42. His Race Kits Falcon, he's the man behind the Race Kits company.
I think we've lost
Mark Windley's as well.
Oh yeah, there he is in the pitch, yep. He went well earlier, battling with Jake Doherty. Out of the hairpin comes this battle for second. Well, Cowley's getting away. I think Bove closer to Richard Jenkins rather than to Cowley ahead of him. So there goes Bill. I guess he's been racing now for more than 10 years, hasn't he? It was at Cadwell Park in the wet, I think, where he got his first ever win.
Yes, I remember him in the wet. He was fantastic there. And moving up the order, Ray Barley, or Ian Barley, he likes to be known, as you say, up into 8th from the back of the grid in car number 11, the red and white Race Kits Falcon.
Yeah, he's got a bit more pace than Steve Boover, so he might gain another one at least before the flag. Mark Glover still going in 6th, isn't he? And there he is, challenging in the background.
Yeah,
Mick Harris.
Yeah.
2 more champions in that battle. I'm not sure if Piver won a title, because I don't think he's really done a full season, has he? I think Bartholomew won the championship in the car.
Yes.
And obviously Richard Jenkins not a champion, not a winner yet in the category. But otherwise the top 6 are all champions from the past. And some of them with many, many championships, including Peter Bove and Mick Harris.
Tends, yes, with 17 between them. It tends to be, once you discover 750 Formula Racing, it becomes very, very Moorish, and you need to keep doing it, and they do. Year after year after year. I mean, the archetypal 60 man is was Bob Simpson, who's now running his grandson, but who learnt the ropes from his father back in the 1960s.
Challenge for 5th place from Mark Glover. He seems to be up to some kind of a speed now. And he goes right round the outside of Mick Harris. They're wheel to wheel. But Cowley's had a big moment. He's locked up and gone straight on. Now, we saw him go off there in the earlier race.
Yes, that's right.
Wonder if the brakes are not... because he's gone a long way off and you don't normally do that. I don't know if he's got back on or not. But Bill Cowley then, dramatic moment, locking up and going off. Wonder if he's not got full braking capabilities in that car. That outside move for Glover, by the way, did work. He's ahead of Mick Harris. But we wait to see if Cowley is still going. And certainly, I don't think he is. Bove is 2nd, 3rd is Jenkins, and no sign of Bill Cowley. So I presume he's pulled off with that braking issue. And that is a real problem in his championship, because he was relying on successful results all the way through after 3 DNFs in the first half of the season. And it looks like he's going to have another today. No, we've lost Jake Doherty now as well. He hasn't come through.
And the yellow lights were flashing there at that corner. We just saw in the back. Here's Jake Doherty's in the pits.
So David Reed is the only Class B driver left. So for David Reed, it looks like he might be able to pick up a class win in 31. The engineering manager from Warwickshire, who's new to racing this year. He's drag raced before in a 10.7 litre Austin A40.
As you would.
He's in the top 10 as well, which would be his best result. But it does seem that what we were wondering, 3 races for these cars. They got to the grid, but not so many of them are still going at racing speed, or at all for some. So Mark Glover, there's Conway Dorr, that's another one. He was, 11th at that point. He's pulled off in the Dave Robson car, the Star. Battle continues though between Glover and Harris. Mick Harris in this car that was built by his wife Sue, who I'm sure is here today supporting him.
Definitely. Sure, when the paddock chatted yesterday.
There's Jenkins, so his 3rd now. Not just Jenkins, I think has had a podium before, not this season. But he's had 3 podiums in 750 Formula in the past, but it looks like he will get a 4th today with the loss of Bill Cowley. There's Glover and Harris battling for 4th place. But there is Richard Jenkins in that Shepherd.
Boother and Goff are sitting together as well. They're fighting for 6th place. Steve Boother just ahead at the moment.
Chris Goffert's had a pretty horrible season, because he had a great run last year, I think, to 2nd in the championship. But this year, it's not gone the same way. Ed Piver leads by 11 seconds, by the way. He has lapped 3 seconds faster than anybody else in this race. and he's not lapped as quick as he has for the rest of the weekend. But there's Glover and Harris. Mick Harris, who had problems in qualifying, it's gone much better since then. For the 10-time champion.
He said to me on Friday that his car might be out next year.
Yeah.
Is that the revised version of the very successful Derby 97.
Well, that'd be good, really good to see, won't it? Another sort of latest concept of a car, rather than a brand new one. Like Bove's car is a car from originates
the barley.
a while ago.
The barley machine is in as well. They're falling like flies, aren't they?
Tell me what we got left. 9, I think. Yeah, 9 cars are left. So we were glad to see 17 take the lights, but and this is what people are going to have to start thinking about Anglesey, because that's a triple header as well. We had a triple header here last year, so it's not totally new. It was new last season. The PRS still going up front. That's Ed Piver. Here's Peter Bove in second out of the final corner.
Got pretty much 3/4 of the length of the centre straight between them.
I think Peter Bove just going at a pace to keep Richard Jenkins at arm's distance.
Yeah, Jenkins still third in the yellow, number 9. You can see it just in the background.
Glover was about a second quicker than Jenkins on the last lap. The gap started at 3 seconds. At the start of lap 6 of what should be a 7-lap race, says Jenkins, and the gap coming down all the time. So Glover and Harris were pushing on in their own battle. So there, Richard Jenkins, the 63-year-old project manager, can he hang on to this podium position, which looked very likely earlier, but that gap had been coming down.
So Chris Goff's had a very long lap. That's sort of spin somewhere at 2:27. Chris Goff.
He was in that battle with Steve Boover, wasn't he? So
Yes.
Boover's now in a clear 6th. So Glover's race is strange, isn't it? Because he looked like he was going to perhaps retire on the first lap when it was slowing, but it's come back to him, and it's on the last lap he was the second quickest car, just not quicker than Ed Piver.
There is a problem. Actually, maybe he's just learnt to drive round it.
That's something else you can do in these cars, which may be sort of top-line racing cars, and how sometimes you can't drive around a problem. It's actually impossible, because you can't miss gears for example, on paddle shift cars. Well, not with ease, anyway. Yeah, Glover's almost with Jenkins now, is he not? So I think Richard Jenkins' podium now looks in doubt. So can he pick the pace up? Ooh, did he lock up? Is that what the smoke was there?
It looked a little like it, didn't it?
And that's going to be the chance for Glover to get the position. Has Jenkins seen him? I'm not sure if he had. He turned in, and Glover did well there not to get into the side of Jenkins' car. So now hopefully Richard Jenkins realises there's a car trying to get past him. Ed Piver's completed 6 laps and gone on to the final tour. Mick Harris not far behind. Can he get onto the podium on this last lap they're about to start? There's Bove just ahead of them. He's in the 15s, so he's not that much
and
pace.
Jenkins in a straight line is just a little bit quicker than Glover, who I thought one of those cars sounded like it's on a rev limiter.
Okay.
Possibly the Glover car, so maybe he's short of top gear and he's having to run it against the limiter in 4th. That's 31 out over the curb. That's Reed, isn't it? David Reed out over the curbs.
He's caught Chris Goff now, so perhaps that slow lap from Goff is a problem rather than an off. Yeah, he's lacking speed, isn't he? So David Reed, the newcomer, he's going to drive past him, I think. Although Goff's not giving up totally on that position. I think he's going to have to. So that is David Reed, the driver from Warwickshire, through in a car that he's shown with James Jeffrey this year. Here's the battle for third, down into Agostini. Oh, and Glover's drove straight into the back of Richard Jenkins, who was looking up, I think.
Yeah, Jenkins locked up. Glover hit him, and Jenkins is now backwards at Agostini.
So Mick Harris for the podium is on now. He's right there with Glover. There's a very deranged rear end of Jenkins' car.
Yeah, that's all the under tray and the little diffuser.
But Glover is still third, but even if he stays third on the road, I guess he might have a trip downstairs below us afterwards to see what happened there. A bit of a strange one. Because it looked like that Jenkins was outbraking himself rather
Yeah,
than...
exactly. And I think that's what happened. He sort of locked up and then he kind of careered and skittered. And I think at that point, the attention of Glover might have been taken by that. He then hit the brakes and couldn't avoid the car that was in front of him.
Ed Piver, we haven't seen much of during the course of this race. He's well out in front. He's about to take the checkered flag.
We've seen about as much of him on the television as the on the screens as his pursuers have done. 3 from 3.
Yeah, and that's 5 from 5 this year in the races he's competed in. And he's almost in championship contention, having only done about a third of the races. Second, it will go to Peter Bove. For third, though, Mark Glover versus Mick Harris. And Glover, with perhaps missing a top gear, could come under threat at the line. Second will go to Peter Bove, so he continues to rack up the points. And for third place, a race to the line. And it's, I think, just Mark Glover, I would suggest. Yeah, they've given it to him by 200ths over Mick Harris, who just missed out on the podium.